Welcome everyone back to Tanya for Life. We're in chapter 16. And Bezrat Hashem will finish chapter 16 this week. And then we can start the next and just keep making our beautiful progress. So let's find our place. Okay. So I'm just going to kick it off from where we're up to. Remember, we're talking about using our intellectual faculties to stimulate and to arouse within us the two factors of the two emotions of love and fear of Hashem, which should be behind every mitzvah and which actually acts as the wings to allow the mitzvahs to soar up to Shamayim in the right way. So our sages of blessed memory hinted at this principle stated here, that the Tevuna love, which is again, remember the intellectually stimulated love, right? Has the power of elevating one's Torah and mitzvot. When they said, the Holy One, blessed be He, joins a good thought to the deed. Wow. And again, I just want to remind us that first of all, we were taught how important it is that every mitzvah that we do be accompanied by and come from a place of feeling these holy, high, refined emotions for love of Hashem and fear of Hashem, right? And then we got to the reality of the fact that most of us don't feel this feeling and this arousal and this emotion in our heart for Kedusha, for Hashem, and a fear of God, an awe of God, a love of God when we're doing mitzvah, right? When we're davening, sometimes we can have thoughts come into our brain that's completely nothing to do with Hashem at all. So it can be, so this is the experience of the Bein Oni. So it's completely normal. But what we're learning is it's okay. More than that, working on your intellect in terms of developing and contemplating on thoughts of God, like to love God, thoughts to connect you with fear and awe of Hashem. So these thoughts where you're contemplating, you're generating, basically, you're giving birth to an emotion. You're giving birth to emotions that you may not feel yet. And by doing this, even if you're not feeling emotionally high or super fired up and ready and full of fiery, passionate love for Hashem, that's fine if you have that intellectual understanding of God or of love of God or of the greatness of God, and that brings out these emotions as if it was there. So for your mitzvah, it acts as if you did have all of this emotional passion, even if you didn't, just through your contemplating, just through this tevuna love, this contemplation, the intellectually generated, right? And wow, I was reading something also, and Bezrat Hashem, it's coming out in Miriam's book, hopefully Bezrat Hashem very, very soon. But we're working on a Tanya book, and that will be really practical, going through each chapter in a practical way for a person to really bring it in, really learn the tips from the Tanya, and take it on board in their life. So one of these points is how really thinking about these lessons again and again, like what we're doing here today. If something resonates with you, sit through it, work through it, just allow it to be a seed in your mind that you keep coming back to, you keep contemplating on. And it could even be a story, like the story of Yosef HaTzadik and the pit, right? When he was thrown into the empty pit. and the teachings there for us is a pit is devoid of water, right? And a pit that's devoid of water actually has snakes and scorpions. So that's the pasuk. And what do we learn from that pasuk, for example? This is how we can understand this intellectual tavuna. This tavuna is by relating to ourselves, contemplating on the Torah teachings again and again and again, revisiting it, because then it starts to settle in us, and it acts as if we have this love, because it generates an intellectual understanding of Hashem, of a love of Hashem, of a fear of Hashem that may not exist fully in a way that we can feel, right? But because we're contemplating it more and more, it becomes more and more to the surface for us. It becomes more and more accessible and available. And then Hashem treats the deeds that we do as if it was fully at the highest level. So, for example, with Yosef, I'm getting back to this example, is that Yosef HaTzadik, from this teaching, we learn what is a pit. The pit is the mind. And I just want to say something here. According to the other side, or the other sources, the other ways of mental health and spirituality, that it's not Jewish and not Torah sourced, they're always talking about emptying your mind so that your mind is silenced. So the Torah way is, it's not healthy for us to empty our mind. We're not meant to get to a point where we're completely empty and devoid, because that's going to create a vacuum. And what's a vacuum? It will invite something else to come in naturally. So what's the natural thing to come in? Is the Yetzer Hara, is the klippa of the world. That's the natural force of the world that we live in. Nature is connected with klippa. So that's going to cause us more a stronger animal soul, right? So instead, what we're taught, and we're taught through this pasuk, that no, we don't want to ever have our mind empty, devoid. Devoid of what, though, is the question. Devoid of mayim. Okay, mayim refers, in Torah language, it refers to Torah. It refers to the waters of Torah. Okay, so if ever our mind is empty of the waters of Torah, then what happens? Naturally, we're going to have the snakes and scorpions, which are negative thoughts that come up in our mind and take space, right? So naturally, if we are devoid of Torah in our minds, and contemplating on this using our intellect to contemplate on Torah, if we're missing this, then naturally the snakes and scorpion thoughts will come into our mind and take space instead, right? So for example, like, I might not be at that level where I can, fill my mind up every single moment of every single day with Torah and thoughts of Torah. Okay, that's fine, but that's where I know I want to be. That's where I know I want to get to. So instead of looking at my lacking, what I'm not doing or what I can't do, try to look for more the positive, like, where can I do it more? Think about it, remember it. If it comes into your mind, then you can remind yourself, oh, I have this power. Oh, I have this koyach. And there's so many examples. The one example, again, with Yosef HaTzadik, is how Yosef HaTzadik was able to give everything. He was able to give without holding a grudge. He was able to give to his family members who tossed him aside and pretty much abandoned him and threw him to die, as if they didn't care about him, right? He could have held on to this resentment and chosen, okay, they treated me so badly, I'm not going to treat them well. Now I'm alive, I'm happy. They had nothing to do with it, really. I had to do this all on my own. They weren't there for me. He had the choice to go according to the rules of nature and be very emotional and very reactive and very mida keneged mida, right? Or me versus you, but instead he acted above that, and he got to a point where he really saw Hashem, and he was never in doubt. He didn't doubt that he went through what he went through, and his siblings threw him in, and he was abandoned for all these reasons. Not on a personal level, but because Hashem decreed that he will be a leader. And in order for him to get to that role of being a leader in Mitzrayim, he had to leave this place where he was in, I don't remember where he was, Canaan maybe. And from there, he had to make his way. So every little detail was there for a purpose and a reason. And he really saw it, that Hashem gave him a gift, right? So these people, it wasn't them doing anything to him. It was Hashem giving to Yosef a very detailed, purposeful experience in his life through the agency of all these people, his brothers, Potiphar, etc., etc. And he didn't hold a grudge, and he was able to give, and he was able to be respectful and give love, and still, be a leader and not let his heart coarsen. And I think that's something Miriam really focuses on, is don't let your heart harden. Don't harden your heart. Don't allow it to build up so much plaque that you're keeping other people out, because you think you're protecting yourself. Because no, in the end, what you're doing when you're hardening your heart is you're changing who you are, right? That's how you change who you are, in the way that you're acting not from who you are inside, because you're loving and you're giving and you're so sweet and you're so kind. That's who you really are. and you're forgiving because you're a neshama. But when a person feels that they're not safe, then they can end up putting on all these barriers. And all these barriers can cause a person who's so sweet and so gentle and so loving to act so angry and so mean and so aggressive, because they're scared to get hurt, right? Then you have two different people. They're no longer, you're covering up who you really are. And a person can't be happy in that place, because the neshama is not being expressed. So getting to the core of who you are means getting rid of these layers, continuously circumcising your heart. And all of this that we're talking about is, first of all, you can understand, I'm not there yet. I realize, Hashem, that my feelings are not on par with Yosef HaTzadik. I don't feel capable of doing all this, but I know it is possible. Okay, so intellectually thinking about it, intellectually seeing, oh, this actually happened. This is actually what I can do, what I can be, what I want to be. So then revisiting it again and again and again, contemplating on it, will actually give you the means to be able to carry it out, right? And it's the same way with this love as well. If you don't have love of Hashem, if you don't have fear of Hashem that you can feel and be in touch with, that's fine. Just contemplate on it. It's to come back to things that are meant to get you there, that which we learned. Thinking about the greatness of Hashem will cause you to have fear and awe of Hashem. Thinking of all the good things that Hashem does, or all the kindness that Hashem gives, will give you love of Hashem, right? So that's what it means, the tuvuna, the intellectually stimulated and created love and fear. So I think this is amazing that this pasuk, the Holy One, blessed be He, joins a good thought to the deed. Wow. The simple meaning of the phrase, that when one intends to do a mitzvah, but is prevented from doing so, God ascribes it to him as though he had actually performed it. And it warrants the expression, Torah considers him as though he had actually done it. Wow. Why the oblique expression, God joins the thought to the deed, which seems to indicate that the thought was indeed implemented, but that the action is somehow detached from it and requires that God join the two together? The explanation, however, lies in the previously mentioned principle. It is the revealed fear and love of God in the heart that vest themselves in one's performance of the commandments, giving them vitality to soar on high. For the heart is also corporeal, like the other organs of the body, which are the instruments of action. Therefore, when one feels a palpable love in his heart, which indicates that the revelation in the soul has become materialized to the point where it can be experienced as a feeling of love in the corporeal heart, then this soul revelation, this love, can also be received by and expressed in the other corporeal organs of the body. When it is so received, and when the organs act in accordance with the love in the heart, then this love lends vitality to those actions. For the heart is the source of vitality for all the organs, as the Rebbe goes on to say. That is amazing. So amazing. Yeah, I think this is important also. Again, where we can like really take a lesson from Hashem is that he really doesn't judge us by harsh standards at all. So we really should step away from that role, because it's not a Torah role. It's not a Torah place to come from, to be so harsh on ourselves, because even how important it is it that one does a mitzvah. But if for some reason a person is prevented from doing a mitzvah, if in their mind a person wants to do it and intends to do it, this thought is as if Hashem will count it as if he does it. And I think it connects also. What I've learned is that there are sometimes being prevented physically from doing a mitzvah, like things can pop up, totally circumstantial, and there's nothing you can do to change it. So you weren't able to do that mitzvah today that you usually do every single day. Fine. That's one way to look at it. Then there's the other way as well, which is sometimes we're so bombarded and so attacked by the heaviness of the klippa that can come in different ways. It can come in like an aggressive mental hangover, we can say, or just different it can be a dragging feeling that really zaps out all of our energy, that we just don't have the koach, we don't have the ability to do this mitzvah that we usually do, even if nothing physical or circumstantial standing in the way. Sometimes it comes from us, within us. And what I've learned is also that's okay. In my experience, like you can't attack yourself and say, oh my gosh, you have to do this, da 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 da. You can't put a bat to your own head and try to bang yourself into logical thinking or doing something, because sometimes, especially with the klippa, it's not subject to logistics, to logical thinking, right? Klippa is not subject to logical thinking. Often it will come with a logical reason why not to do something or why you're so bad, but that's just a tool, because klippa is not bound by logic. Klippa comes from a world of chaos, right? So it's moody, it's emotional, it's things that like there's no reason for. I don't know why I can't do what I'm supposed to do. I just feel like I can't, right? So that's klippa. And sometimes we're so prevented from doing a mitzvah because we're in such a deep down state. And that's okay too. That's a place where you call out to Hashem from, and you're with this longing, with this desire to do the mitzvah, right? And you share that with Hashem and you say like, look, I'm incapable. I'm really incapable at the moment. And I don't want this to be the case. I want to show up. I want to connect with you. I want to do this mitzvah, and asking Hashem for that help. But that thought as well of wanting to be there and do it, and having intended to do it, can give you also can be counted as something, right? And from the teachings of Gedalia Fenster, he talks about running and returning. So when you're in a state of like this klippa has completely downed you, it's a state of like contraction when Hashem's hidden from you. And in this place of contraction, the Breslov Rebbe would say the way to get out of it is, one way is to work on your ratzon, your desire, right? Your desire for Hashem, your desire to not be restricted, your desire to connect instead, right? To Hashem in the holy ways that you're being prevented from right now. And he would say that there is no barrier too strong or too high that the right amount of desire can't overcome it, right? Which means that if you nurture and nourish your desire high enough, strong enough, you'll be able to overcome those times of constriction. And it might not be immediate, but like you might fall and you might not do that mitzvah that unfortunately, chas v'shalom, but that you were planning to do and you weren't able to show up. It could be that from your desire, building up a desire and a yearning and connecting with Hashem in this way, from your humanity, on your knees with humility, then you can break that barrier much faster and then get up again and then be able to do the mitzvah the next time, right? Whereas I've also experienced the other side where a person can just, not get to this point of humility, not getting to this point of building desire, instead kind of numbing out instead, or just, or attacking yourself. Either way, you kind of stay in this klippa drenched, contracted zone, right? It changes from you opening yourself up and asking Hashem to help you out of it, right? It doesn't change because you're running away from the problem. It will just continue to exist. So if you keep running away from it and not trying to address it and just, almost accept everything as it is, then you're not going to get over that. And you probably just prolong your experience in this klippa drenched contraction much longer than it needs to be. So again, I'll remind everyone, our purpose is to fall, but to get up again and get up fast. It's not to never fall. We're not perfect. We're not angels. We're not looking for perfection. We're just looking to make the time that we've fallen less, like more shorter, and to get up faster and to keep moving forward. That's what we're focused on. This is how we're doing it. So, wow, really, there's so much we can really dig into. There's so much. I think I'm gonna do a bit more digging here. Again, when it says that Hashem, it's Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be He, that joins the good thought to the deed. Okay, so again, like all that we talked about going onto our knees in humility, accepting our reality, like we're drenched, we're completely trapped. There is no way out for us on our own seichel, according to our own hands. There is no way out. We're prevented, right? And then building that desire, learning through your learning, through your soul searching, through like a fearless moral inventory, then we can come closer to Hashem and really see, wow, Hashem, this is where I want. And the Torah that we're learning, again, we're learning Torah that relates to the difficulty we're going through, so that we can see, oh, what's the higher road? What is the possibility? What can I do that would actually be the right thing? Connect with Hashem in the right way through this experience that I'm having. So then what a person really does is we empty our ego, nullify our ego, so it's bittul, and in its place we input again mayim, the waters of Torah, the waters of Hashem, so which is ultimately Hashem's seichel, the way that Hashem thinks, and we're inviting it into our own headspace, into our space. We're saying, Hashem, I don't want my ego, I don't want my way of thinking, I want your way of thinking. And we have to remember that it's all only Hashem, that it doesn't matter how much I could try to do this on my own. If I'm missing this part where I'm getting rid of my way of thinking and bring Hashem's way of thinking instead, and if I'm not realizing that everything that changes is coming from Hashem, like when I actually have the ability to move forward, that's a gift from Hashem. That's not a given. It's not, I didn't merit it. I didn't earn it. It's done something out of kindness, right? And it's something that Hashem has bestowed upon me, right? Just like he bestows a good thought to the deed, even if we're prevented from doing it. So we really have to remember that. Really, really have to remember that. And how amazing is Torah that we can learn to see Hashem behind the lines, hidden behind nature. Because the more we can do that, just like Yosef HaTzadik, and connect with Hashem that's behind the rules of nature and behind the human interactions, then we'll learn not to fear anyone but Hashem. We'll learn not to love anyone but Hashem, because there's nothing to fear from I love this analogy. It's like when a messenger, or when someone's beating a stick, right? Instead of looking at the stick and getting upset with the stick, you can like have an interaction with the person holding the stick, right? That's in a way Hashem's chas v'shalom, he's not beating us, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes we can feel like we're being hurt and beaten again and again and again, and then we think that it's the stick that's doing everything wrong to us. But really, it's a point for us to open up, to have a conversation, to interact, and to realize where we're at, to reach out to Hashem. And then we stop to fear human beings, because nothing happens if Hashem didn't say, decree it, right? And everything is only one little tiny puzzle piece of the big picture. So the big picture is always for our good, even when the small little tiny parts, like Yosef HaTzadik's experience, the small little tiny parts where his brothers hated him, or they threw him and they claimed he was dead and they were ready to kill him, and Potiphar, and he was thrown into jail. And there were so many things where the small details, if you get caught up and major on minor details, then you can really zap your energy out of your life, chas v'shalom. But it's not the purpose, because Yosef HaTzadik, again, he knew that every little detail comes to fulfill Hashem's decree, and Hashem's decrees are only for the good and the love of his Neshamot. So he had faith that whatever's happening is part of Hashem's big plan, and this big plan is something good, something desirable, and he trusted in Hashem fully. And so even if we're not always there, we can think about this story more and more and more, intellectualize, like cogitate on it, and allow that to lead us into feeling as well the trust and bitachon that he was able to develop, right? So we can also, through contemplating on it more and more. And then we were talking about how when our heart becomes an instrument for Hashem, then, and refined, and we're circumcising our heart, then it's able to have holy, refined emotions. And from this heart, this strong, powerful organ, it seeps into the rest of our organs, the rest of our body. Okay, so then our body and our limbs can experience a holy experience as well, and happily move towards Torah, mitzvahs, and good midot, good healthy interactions with other people naturally, right? Without us trying to force it into action. It happens automatically. And that's through refining the heart. Okay, so Yeah. So therefore, when one feels a palpable love in his heart, oh, we've already done that. So the altar, okay, when it is received, when the organs receive the love and the refinedness of the heart, then the organs act in accordance with this love that exists in the heart. And then this love lends vitality to these actions, the actions that the body will do. For the heart is the source of vitality for all the organs, as the Alter Rebbe goes on to say. The heart is, however, internal and is the organ's source of vitality. Therefore, because the heart in its corporeality is close to the other organs and also provides their vitality, it can clothe itself in their actions to be their wings, elevating them. As we see in practice, when one acts out of love, his hands suddenly become animated. For as stated, when the soul's revelation reaches the point where it is felt in a revealed love, it has become so materialized that it can be experienced in the other organs of the body and can therefore animate their actions. Wow. However, the above mentioned fear and love that are in the intelligence of the brain and the recesses of the heart are a far higher order than the level of action. Wow. Therefore, they cannot clothe themselves in the performance of the commandments to become their intellectual power and vitality, to elevate them so they may soar on high. The inability of the love to find expression beyond the mind, which is far more spiritual than the other organs, indicates that the revelation of the soul present in the Tuvuna love has not become materialized enough to affect the other more corporal organs. As we see, when one's actions are motivated not by the desire of his heart, but solely by his understanding that he ought to act in a particular manner, then his actions lack vitality. So it is too of the Tuvuna love and Tuvuna fear. They are so far removed from the other organs that they are incapable of lending vitality to the actual performance of the mitzvot and to elevate them thereby. If not for the fact that God joins and unites them together with the action so that they may serve as its wings, they, the Tuvuna fear and love, are called good thoughts, for they are not actual fear and love in a revealed state in the heart, but only in the intelligence of the brain and the recesses of the heart, as mentioned above. Since they express themselves in the mind, they are called good thought. This then is the illusion contained in the statement, God joins the good thought to the deed. God joins the good thought, which are the Tuvuna, love and fear, to the good deed that one has actually performed, so that the deed is not separate from the thought, but instead is elevated by it. In the following note, the Alter Rebbe states that this idea is expressed in the Kabbalah in terms of the Sfirot, which are the divine attributes. And from this, we may understand its parallel in the human faculties. Thus, it is also written in the Zelle Or and Eitz Chaim that the Hebrew word tuvuna, understanding, comprises the letters which form the words bain and bat. Bat with bet and taf, and bain with bet and nun, which means ben for son and bat for daughter, which are in terms of human emotions, they represent love and fear. Sometimes the Tuvuna descends to become the intelligence in the feminine aspect of the small image, which is the recipient of the divine midot or attributes, which are referred to collectively as the small image. Zer Anpin. Ah, that's amazing. Okay, Zer Anpin, you'll hear that a lot. Which in the human sphere refers to the letters of Torah and Mitzvot. The normal order would be that the Tuvuna descends first to the Zer Anpin, the small image, which are the Midot, and hence to the feminine aspect, which is the attribute of Malchut. And small image Zer Anpin refers to the Midot. It refers to like the male it's like the male aspect. which gives to the female of Malchut. So sometimes, however, there is a direct flow from Bina to Malchut, bypassing the intervening midot in terms of one's service to God. This means the normal procedure should be that the understanding derived from one's meditation should affect his emotions, thus arousing a love and fear within him. And these emotions should in turn express themselves in one's actual performance of the commandments. There is, however, an alternative method of affecting one's actions, which is through the direct influence of the tavuna, the higher levels. Wow, that's amazing. Wow, we've read so much. This is amazing, amazing Torah. The initiated shall understand, i.e. the Kabbalistic references contained in the note will be more fully elucidated in the course of further study. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that the effect of God's joining the good thought of Tavuna to one's good deeds is that in this way, the mitzvot are able to ascend to the world of Bria, the high world. This is a world of comprehension. And all the mitzvot motivated by emotions arising from an understanding of God's greatness ascend there too. But even without this act of joining the good thought to the deed, one's Torah and mitzvot ascend to the lower world of Yetzirah, a world of feeling, since one's performance is motivated, at the very least, by the inherent love and fear of God that is hidden in the heart of every Jew. Okay, wow, there's so much that we just went over. So this is showing us, that the natural order, like it's something that Hashem does out of kindness. It's not something that is part of nature. If Hashem like took a step back from our experience, from our lives, then we wouldn't have this ability to connect with, to stimulate and generate these emotions of love and fear of Hashem. If we weren't feeling it passionately in our heart, then it wouldn't count, right? Because according to nature, what lives in the mind gives birth to your feelings and your emotions. And from your feelings and emotions in your heart, that dictates the way that you'll act, your midot. So what this is saying is this is the normal way, this is the truth, this is reality, but there's also a level which is so high where Hashem says he will put the good thought, the thoughts in your mind, he'll connect it immediately. As if, so like you bypass kind of the fact that you're not feeling passionately the feelings. Instead, since you're like contemplating it, then he'll, like you've done some work, and he'll bypass the emotional fieriness, so that you can have more control over your midot, over your actions anyway. And it will be as if it was fully connected in the proper way. And usually it's just a lagging. Usually it's a lagging. So like fake it till you make it. That's where it like this sort of thing comes in. Like Rambam teaches a lot. Rambam teaches this idea of fake it till you make it. That it's okay, like to come to Hashem and to do things even when you don't feel like doing it. It's okay to do something nice for a person if you don't feel like doing something nice. If inside you're feeling resentful or whatever, that's fine, because you can work on it. And the intention, like the understanding that you had to begin with, the reason you're doing this to begin with, can elevate this act as if it was done from a good place. It's something to work on, and the more that you try, the more that you contemplate on it and work for it, the more you'll become refined in your heart. So it can act the other way around as well. And then you like bring out more of your neshama that's living beneath the barriers, right? Your heart that's living beneath the barriers, and you can help to let go of the barriers through your actions, through this as well, you know. And so that's kind of the idea that we're being taught here, to understand more deeply in terms of the Sefirot, which is again like the DNA of everything we experience in this world, and the way Hashem created the world. The DNA is like the Sefirot. That's how Hashem, in his infinite glory, is able to contract himself and give us an experience of the existence that we have in a way that can hide him, the way we have free will. So this is the Sefirot, and it was explaining to us, where does this idea come, where we can kind of bypass that, we don't have to feel all the emotions in order to have the impact of the good feelings, as if we had the emotions, right? So this is happening because of a and I think it's important as well. The reason I'm talking about this, giving it a bit more time, is also the idea that we know, that we've heard, most of us have heard, that nothing in this world, in the physical world, happens unless it's happening in the spiritual realm, right? So whatever's happening down here is happening up there in the spiritual realm, and it acts as a mirror that will be mida keneged mida. What happens up there will happen down here. What happens down here will happen up there. So it's we're very connected to the spiritual dynamics of what's going on. So part of that spiritual dynamic that we can see here is, how is it that Hashem allows us the ability to move past not having the natural feelings in our heart yet, right? How is it that he allows us to be able to rely on the intellectually understood fear and love, right? That we come to an intellectual understanding that we love God or fear God. Why is that enough? To change the way that we act, to be accepted and on high as a fulfilled mitzvah. So that's because the way that Hashem is present in the spiritual sense, like what's happening in the spiritual sense, is that we're receiving, right? The nukva, the malchut, the aspect of the female, is the one that receives, right? And the one that receives will then give birth to all the attributes, all the actions. So by meditating, by using the higher source, before you get to even the midot, before you get to the natural order of things, from the mind, then comes to the heart, then comes to the actions, you can actually receive the female aspect, the midot, like what actually happens, what's created, what actually, your character traits can be affected by the tavuna, which exists in bina, before it comes down into the level of chachma bina da'at, before it comes to the midot, before it comes to tifer netzach hod yisod gvur chesed, right? So before it comes down there, I know this is very complicated stuff, so I'm sorry if I'm confusing you. So before it comes there, it can actually be brought from the highest realm down into the lowest. And that's through our contemplation. It doesn't happen if we're not contemplating on Torah. Okay, like we learned at the beginning with the Save A Tzedaka. Yeah. So here it is. The alternative method of affecting one's actions through the direct influence of the tavuna. But God affects, let me just see. Okay, we're almost done. God affects this joining of tavuna to action in order to elevate the performance of the commandments and the Torah study, which are carried out through the influence of the good thought via the tavuna, as mentioned above, into the world of Bria. The world of Bria being the level to which ascends the performance of Torah and mitzvot when motivated by fear and love deriving from one's meditation, and which are truly revealed in one's heart. However, even without this joining, they rise to the world of Yetzirah by means of the natural fear and love which are latent in the heart of all Jews from birth, as will be later explained at length. In summary, even he who cannot create a conscious, palpable love and fear of Hashem in his heart can still serve Hashem with a perfect service through the tavuna emotions. Thereby, too, his performance of the Torah and mitzvot will ascend to the same level as that which is motivated by revealed love and fear of Hashem. Wow, so amazing. Okay, so that's what we were talking about before. Ultimately, we were talking about the service of the Bein Oni, who isn't, how can one connect with Hashem when you're not feeling all of the feelings, right? All of the passion to serve Hashem, or the fear and the awe of Hashem, right? So there are two things. One is know, that we learned before, that it addressed again, know that within you, you already have a certain amount of love and a certain amount of fear that's already built into your soul. It's part of your soul's DNA, which we received from our forefathers, right? That was an inheritance. Because again, our neshamas come from the neshamas of our forefathers, and we were within the neshama. All of our neshamas were within Abraham Avinu, his neshama. And so we all experienced sacrificing our life, ready to sacrifice the life of our son. We all experienced that. So we have this Mesiras Nefesh already built into the deepest core of our neshama. So whether or not we feel it, it exists to the deepest level, okay? And again, also fear of Hashem, awe of Hashem, that exists to the deepest level through like Yitzchak Avinu as well, who was Fachad Hashem, Ufachad Hashem. So we have these emotions deeply ingrained in our soul, so that exists whether we feel it or not. And again, we were talking about how one can bring it more to the surface if you just think, like you realize, connect with the fact that it exists within you, whether you feel it or not. And then connecting with it being there will help bring it more to the surface as well, right? Like when you acknowledge something, if you acknowledge something, it will bring it more to the surface of your conscience and of your experience of the world, into your heart as well. So you'll get that feeling more. And then your service in Torah and Avodas to Hashem can be penetrated with that. But then we have another level, another experience of connecting with Hashem, even when we don't feel like it, when we're not coming from a passionate feeling of feeling these emotions for Hashem. Okay, so another thing to remember is to use our tavuna, to use our intellectual capacities, meditate. That's why Miriam's CBTT focuses so much on meditation, because what is revisiting an idea again and again? What is revisiting and cogitating your mind with something? It's meditating. You're entwining your mind with this piece of Torah. And the more that you do it, the more it creates this connection, right, between your heart and your actions. So, so if you're not feeling it, that's okay. You can work on and know that Hashem's still accepting it to the highest degree, just by you having more understanding of this love of Hashem, understanding of this fear of Hashem, which comes, understanding of this trust of Hashem, which comes through your learning and your thinking and your meditating on it. And again, I want to remind everyone that it doesn't matter who you are or what you're experiencing in your life, you have these parts of you that exist. You have this power. Ultimately, this meditation and thinking and intellectually, this tavuna has the power to bring out what already exists deep within you, right? And that's what Rambam teaches, that you have like your actions on the outside can serve for your neshama to express itself more and more. And something really amazing that the Rebbe actually said is all anxiety that one experiences in this world is actually coming from the soul and a person's experience of life, like their body, where they're so separate. So if your life path, where you are right now in your life, in all these different aspects of your life, if all these different aspects of in your life are far away from the desire of your soul, then that's where the anxiety can come from, because your soul is ultimately who you really are. And it's not something chas v'shalom that we can or even want to ultimately shut out. So it will keep popping up. And the further and further chas v'shalom a person runs away from it, the more and more uncomfortable we become. But we can actually use this same formula for the reverse, that we can use our body, we can use our actions and our thought to act in the way that is Torah, act in a way that represents the soul, act in a way that's holy and righteous and refined, even if we're not there yet inside of our heart, in the deepest recesses of our heart. And what will happen is our neshama can be expressed more, right? So our neshama can feel comfortable. And then we'll have less and less of this anxiety and this fear and dichotomy of being, because we'll really feel like who we really are. Because our soul will be able to shine through, the barriers will be gone, and that's something so important. So these two actually, the service of the Bein Oni, they work together. They really work together. So meditation is so important. And also recognizing what we have within our soul, within our heart. Everything we have is all there, everything we need. It's just a matter of revealing it. And what this was talking about is through meditation, we reach the higher realms. Through this act of contemplation and meditation, we can take our mitzvot and our Torah to the higher levels of Bria, which is the world of intellect. It's the world of comprehension, right? Which is higher. It's actually higher. It's a higher place than the world of just feeling, which is Yetzirah. But either way, we'll always, our expressions can always go to Yetzirah easily, because that's something that exists within us, deep within us, as an inheritance. But to get to the higher world, we really need to use our chachma. We really need to use our meditation, contemplation. And because it's from this comprehension that we're accessing this tavuna, to that which corresponds to the spiritual level and universe of comprehension, because comprehension comes from the world of comprehension, right? So it's a really high place. Bria is actually also where darkness comes from, which is so there's so many like golden Torah notes, really. I heard today, I think it was today, that from Gedali Fenster, he was saying that there's no suffering in this world. Suffering comes from a person's da'at, And what's da'at? That's your comprehension. That's your knowledge, the way you understand, the way you perceive, the way you intellectualize a situation, right? And all suffering comes from there, where that also means that it's the fix. So if you want to not experience suffering in your life, then da'at is what you have to rectify and fix, right? Because a person can be going through the same thing one day, and the next day, for some reason, he's able to cope and he's not suffering. He can even take things lightheartedly, whereas before he was like heavy-hearted, took everything so personal. And a person goes through this running and returning. If they've humbled themselves, learned the lessons and grown and connected with Hashem, and sacrificed their mind and their heart to Hashem and brought Hashem's influence into him instead, then a person can get to that next level. And then their mind will start to see in Hashem's way, Hashem's da'at, not their own constricted da'at, right? And so the same situation, the same circumstance can, it's not the cause of a person's suffering. It's not the situation, it's your da'at, it's the way you see it, it's your understanding. So I forgot why I brought that up. Oh yeah, because it comes from the world of comprehension. And I think it's amazing, this teaching, because we learned in, I think, chapter 3 of Tanya, that darkness, like klippa, comes into the world only from this level. Like before this level, there's only kedusha, there's only good. And from this level in Bria, there starts to begin a little bit of evil, gets has expression. And then in the next world, it's like half, and then in the world after that, which is our world, it's like mostly evil, it's like mostly darkness. So I think that it's amazing that da'at, which comes from comprehension, which comes from the level and the world and the universe of Bria, is where darkness is found. But even more so, it's where light is found also. So if we can work and to rectify the way that our da'at, the way that we think and comprehend, then we can actually rectify the evil and the klippa of the world, and of our experiences that we're going through, and actually purify it, refine it, and bring it to a higher form of in Bria, in this comprehension. And it's possible because most of comprehension, most of the world of Bria is light. So that's where we get our light. So I think this chapter 16 of Tanya was big, and I hope that everyone got at least something that they resonated with. And B'ezrat Hashem will be able to meditate and think upon. Let's do a meditation now, a quick meditation before we finish. So I'll invite everyone now to relax, either close your eyes or let them be open, softly gazing. Whatever feels good for you. Just breathe in, breathe out. Breathing in, connect and resonate with any tension in your heart, any barriers or boundaries or blockages in your mind, any tension, any difficult memories in your mind, in your body, in your muscles, any tension that may exist there, any knots. And breathing out, release it all gently, without force. The gentle invitation to let go, to move on, to keep moving. So breathing in and breathing out. And you can also contemplate on this idea of tikkun. So any tensions that have existed, they're all there for a purpose, especially designed on our journey that Hashem's created for a bigger purpose. And now we can recognize and allow it to keep moving. Because we've felt the tension, it's done its purpose. And we're about to do some cleansing through connecting with Chachmat Hashem, the Mayim of Torah. So breathing in, imagine all the learning that we've done today. Imagine all the holy angels we've created through our thinking. These holy Torah thoughts, and just imagine this entering into us, entering into our mind. Such a strong force of light, of godliness. And watch as it sends its way down into our heart, refining our heart, so that all the guards and blockages can just be released. We don't need any guards when Hashem is present. When we feel Hashem is present, we feel safe and protected, which we do now. And you can feel your heart feeling as if it's in the right place, in the right time. It's fulfilling its duty, its destiny, its mission, by being completely taken over by holy feelings from the Torah that we're learning today. Holy fear, awe of God, His wondrous ways. Feeling love of God for His kindness that He gives us, these teachings even. And you can feel these emotions swirling and swelling, your heart feeling so good, it's doing what it's meant to. And feel these emotions seeping through your bloodstream, pumping into each organ, making its way through all of your limbs, all agencies of your body, from every finger to every toenail, to every sensory organ, the eyes, the mouth, the ears, even each blade of hair on your head. Just feel completely and thoroughly washed with godliness. Through your heart, it's pumping through this love and awe of Hashem. And it makes your body feel light. It makes your body feel a desire, an excitement, an arousal to connect with God. What mitzvah can I do right now to connect with God? Use my body in a way that will unite it with the one true creator, with my source. And you feel this longing of the heart. You feel this longing from the neshama being expressed through the heart and expressed through each organ and limb of your body. You see yourself with such vigorous vibrancy, with happiness. You see Torah, you see learning, you see yourself davening, praying. This is the way to connect with Hashem. And you're excitedly reading each letter, each word. And you're excitedly meditating upon the teachings that you've learned of Torah. And after you finish davening, you open up the Tanya or one of Miriam Yerushalmi's books, some form of Torah that you resonate with, and you're learning it, and you're learning it, and you feel even more of these angels being created and stimulating you through your mind, through your heart, through your body, giving you more energy to connect with Hashem. And now imagine this powerful energy, these good holy vibes running through you. You're radiating this power, and you see the effect on the people around you. As you smile, as you're full of energy, you see that it's contagious, and the people around you are responding. They're picking up on all these hormones. They're picking up on all these angels that you're creating. And they're gaining from you all of this strength, this good vibes, this happiness and lightheartedness, this being able to act from a holy place. Now, with a prayer in our hearts, may Hashem, may you ingrain this image and these feelings that we've experienced in this meditation. May you ingrain it in the grooves of our mind and the recesses of our heart, and leave an imprint within all of our organs and all of our limbs, so that we can more easily access this, and more easily come to serve you, and more easily share the vibrancy and the vigorousness with those around us. So as you come back to the present, I'll remind everyone the importance of tzedaka. So please consider donating to Save A Neshama Endowment. You'll find the details in the YouTube description box. And I actually just went over today one of the halachot about tzedakah, that first a person should be giving tzedakah no matter what, a certain percentage, and from that percentage, if you're wanting to use tzedakah as a merit, a way to thwart evil decrees or judgment, or whatever suffering you're going through in your life, in order to use tzedakah as a way to mitigate that judgment, to soften it, to bring a lighter sentence, and mercy instead, by having mercy on others. So you need to go above and beyond what is the halacha already for you. So we know 10%. For us, I think it was saying 5%, I think was what Chovat Halvavot was saying. 5% for an average person who's not, a completely wealthy, rich person. That's what they're obligated in. And if you give more than that, then that will be counted as part of giving from yourself, self-sacrifice. And it's self-sacrifice that will lessen the judgments, lessen the decrees upon you. So take what I said with a grain of salt, because I'm not a halachic authority. I know 10% for sure is what everyone must be giving. So so I encourage everyone to use this opportunity to give to Save A Neshama Endowment in order to lessen some of the severity that either you or loved ones or other people in the world, the whole world as a whole, might be feeling. Whatever you want to give is wonderful. And we'll see you next week, B'ezrat Hashem. Thanks for joining us.